I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot responded on Monday to the leaked Supreme Court draft decision that revealed Roe v. Wade could be overturned. The Democratic mayor said, quote, "We are soldiers prepared to fight." Later in the press conference, Lightfoot was asked about accusations that the city is, quote, targeting Arab American-owned gas stations. Lightfoot took, quote, pretty great offense to the question. Listen in for her full response.
So, we are soldiers. We are soldiers prepared to fight. And I think Alderwoman Hairston's words were completely appropriate. I'm joined here today by a room full of fearless leaders who, like me, felt outrage and great disappointment and concern at the draft opinion that was leaked last week that outlaws and bans Roe v. Wade and the right of abortion. I feel angry, but with each passing day, I feel determined and energized. Now, we all know that for the last 50 years, Roe v. Wade has paved the way for people in need of reproductive care to access safe abortions for themselves and, importantly, decide for themselves the circumstances under which they choose to bear children or not. The court's draft decision truly epitomizes the dangers that exist at the intersection of racism, sexism, and homophobia. And make no mistake, this is not and never has been just about abortion. We know that the extremists pushing this agenda, that one pillar of which is coming to fruition, understand that too. To be clear, this is driven by a faction of our country that will stop at nothing to gain power, and especially power over our bodies. That's what this is about. And we know that the impact of overruling Roe will fall disproportionately on women of color and poor women. Roe v. Wade never fully protected us. And that's important for people to also recognize, because for far too long, people of color living in poverty have always struggled to access and pay for good quality health care that they must need, how to get time off for work for the procedure and recovery time, and even how to get to a clinic to get these reproductive resources. And on top of that, they've had to weigh their safety in walking to a clinic in the first place. Soon after Roe v. Wade became the law of the land, we then saw the Hyde Amendment, named after Henry Hyde, a former congressperson from Illinois, which further restricted access to reproductive health care for poor individuals by prohibiting the use of federal dollars, namely Medicaid, to pay for abortion and other reproductive services. So over these last 50 years, class, race, have continued to work against the most vulnerable women in our society. And the eventual Supreme Court decision to reverse Roe and Casey means that we must take action, which is precisely why we are here today. And as long as I am mayor, the city of Chicago will continue to take a comprehensive approach to reproductive justice, and I want to emphasize justice, to ensure equitable access that eliminates barriers with deep racist roots in our country. Because everyone has a right to have children or not to have children, and to raise children in an environment on their terms and on their schedule. What's important to note is that this draft opinion had offensive language signaling the dismantling of other fundamental rights protected and arising from the right to privacy. This means the decision would establish precedent for gutting the legal underpinnings used to protect against gender-based discrimination overall. This includes women's rights, trans rights, immigrant rights, and of course, the right to same-sex and interracial marriage. We simply cannot stand idly by and let that happen. That's why today, I and we are announcing the City of Chicago's Justice for All pledge. Through this pledge, we are leaning into the fact that the city will continue to be a beacon of democracy and freedom for everyone. We must be, and we will be, a city that enhances and facilitates everyone's ability to thrive and fulfill their God-given potential. And expressing our commitment to creating a safe haven for all who are unjustly denied the resources and opportunities that they deserve and need to live. We will fight for the rights of all people, regardless of race, color, sex, gender identity, age, religion, disability, national origin, or sexual orientation. We will fight to ensure that no person will be attacked, assaulted, bullied, or discriminated against because of who they are, the choices they make regarding their bodily autonomy, or who they love. And unfortunately, we already saw what is going to hopefully not be a precursor, but just this weekend, we saw a Molotov cocktail that was lodged at an abortion facility in Madison, Wisconsin. And unfortunately, we have to assume that more copycats will follow, and we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can to protect and safeguard women's rights to reproductive care. We will protect and increase access to all safe reproductive, obstetric, and gynecological health care, regardless of the patient's age, sex, identity, race, disability, socioeconomic status, immigration status, or place of residence. As we know, many states surrounding us have trigger laws that the minute that Roe is reversed, abortion in all forms will be banned in those states. And Chicago will then be an island of freedom for reproductive rights and other rights. So we've got to be ready, and we've got to step up. And we will build up the capacity for anti-racist and anti-discriminatory leadership to reckon with the deep impacts of our history while working with affected communities to advance the cause of justice. We will create safe environments to support and directly address the racial and health disparities experienced by people of color, health disparities experienced among a wide array of folks, particularly the alarming statistics around the rates of maternal and infant mortality experienced by Black women in Chicago. We will support and reaffirm a search for the truth and free expression that does not propagate hate and erase anyone from our history, our present-day fight, and our present-day fight for justice. We will not support bans of book, bans of thought, and bans of speech, as we are seeing sweep through certain states in our union. Now, the only way that we can get through this incredibly difficult moment is by working together and casting this social safety net and this quest for freedom and justice far and wide. That's why I will be calling upon my fellow mayors across the country, many of whom I've spoken to in these last few days, to join me in making this pledge to protect people in need. Furthermore, we are in the city of Chicago backing this pledge with an immediate investment because we've already seen an influx of patients to Chicago seeking care that will only continue to escalate as the final decision comes this summer. Recall, as I said, that all around us there are trigger states. We've got to be ready. So in order to continue to make sure that Chicago is ready and prepared to provide access to reproductive care, in partnership with the Chicago Department of Public Health, we are investing $500,000 to scale up access to reproductive health care for those who are going to need it, for Chicagoans and our neighbors. These dollars will go to support transportation, lodging, follow-up care, and if necessary, the safe and legal procedure of abortion. So I want to say to women here in Chicago, in Illinois, and in neighboring states here in the Midwest, regardless of where you live, you deserve safe and accessible health care. And in the city of Chicago, we are prepared to prepare it to support you. Reproductive rights are a fiction without access to health care. And access to health care cannot be a commodity that's only available to the wealthy. The announcements we are making today follow on a long history and tradition in Chicago as an important center for reproductive rights. Some of you may know that in 1969, a group of women who called themselves the Jane Collective was founded to reduce the number of unsafe and expensive abortions being performed many times by unqualified providers. From 1969 to 1973, when abortions became legal, the underground organization helped thousands of women access critical reproductive health care resources and helped facilitate the performance of 12,000 safe abortions. In many ways, the Jane Collective and the many other women's liberation activists of that time who came before us prepared Chicago for this moment and made this place a safe haven for women to receive abortions and other reproductive rights services. So we stand on the shoulders of those women who knew that it was critically important that we had safe access to abortion and reproductive services here in Chicago. And many of the people that are gathered with me here today are also the sisters who have inherited that rich history of service to our fellow women and girls in need. And those who have an appointment, I want to make sure you know, if you have an appointment with a reproductive healthcare providers, those appointments still stand. Roe has not been overturned yet. We anticipate it at the end of the court's term sometime in June. But abortion is still the law of the land across the country, unless you're in Texas. And more on that another day. Oh, my goodness. But I just want to say to you, we stand with you here in the city of Chicago. We want to make sure that we are doing everything that we can. And I want to emphasize that this is not only about reproductive rights. Again, if you read that draft opinion, they're coming for the rest of us as well. Particularly my brothers and sisters in the LGBTQ plus community, they're coming for our rights. The appellants, the amici on behalf of the appellants, and that horrible, mean-spirited draft opinion call our rights phony rights. They want to undermine the right to same-sex marriage, the right to interracial marriage, the right to be free of sodomy laws across the country. And I even saw this weekend that one of these folks is talking about challenging the bedrock of our public education system, Brown versus the Board of Education. There is no depth to which these folks will not sink. Do not kid yourself. So this moment has to be a call to arms. And I call upon all people of goodwill in this moment to make sure that you are investing in the organizations that are on the front lines. Certainly the legal defense funds that are out there that are carrying this fight into the courts, but also the frontline service providers, like many of the folks that are with us here today, Chicago Abortion Fund, Midwest Access Coalition, Planned Parenthood for Chicago, and Chicago Foundation for Women, just to name a few. These women, these leaders, have been preparing for decades, and we will not surrender our rights without a fight. And as the older woman said, we are ready. We are ready to fight and fight hard all the way to victory. Now, with that, I'd like to ask Commissioner Allison Arwady to come up.